So the switch occurred mostly because I felt at some point that what I was writing about, what I was discussing in conferences and classical settings, was not really transferring into the real world. There were two or three moments where that was very clear that I was surrounded by a group of colleagues and I was enjoying quite a lot of discussions I was having and all of that. But at some point, I felt this is a private club. We are all very interested in these topics. But whatever is happening in Silicon Valley with big tech companies is largely unaffected by anything we say here.
And what I'm curious about is maybe you remember a day or a moment or a setting where you understood that, okay, maybe I should be moving from just being a scholar to creating something better in a different way, or this is not the way it should be. When did you have this click moments when you said, okay, I need to fix
So I
this?
think it was during my PhD, probably. You spend a lot of time alone during a PhD, you overthink everything. At some point, you need to start thinking about other things to even escape your own reality. Otherwise, you risk going mad just thinking about the project. And there were I think two moments there. We had these working groups that still happen today, where you invite some scholar from outside of the UI and he or she sits down with a group of researchers, and then you are supposed to have a very horizontal discussion with it. And I'm not going to say who he was, but we did invite a very renowned scholar. And the way he presented the topic and the way we reacted to it made me feel that we had changed nothing in the way that scholarship was done. He started by saying, "Thank you everyone for the invitation. I will speak for 10 minutes. My name is blah, blah, blah." And then he presented slides that looked from, I don't know how many years ago. And then that stopped. And then, does anyone have questions? That we had 3 minutes of questions, very quick. And there was it. And I was thinking, wow, my God, I spent 2 years and we're still doing the same format that, a Roman lawyer would do 2000 years ago. And I remember just thinking there must be another way, because if I am not super comfortable with the situation, when I go back to becoming a professor or a teacher and my students that are probably born in 2010 or 2005 or 6, they will not relate to this. There is no way that anyone will relate to this format. And that for me was a bit of a crisis, Dima, because I don't know about you, but was really up until I would say, 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I was really convinced that had been born to become a professor, to become a scholar. And that was my mission. That was and then I got disappointed at some point, I think, with legal scholarship, how it worked. So I think that was the first moment. Then there is a moment, there is a difficult moment, which is when you finish the PhD, there's plenty of positions out there for postdocs. And you're supposed to carry on continuously. You do a postdoc, then maybe you do a second postdoc. At some point, I know colleagues who have 3 postdocs. It's a never-ending postdoc mania. And then you're supposed to then apply for these positions to become an assistant professor. And what I felt was that many of my colleagues who were 40-something, so they were in the second stage of their careers after what I was about to begin, they were suffering still so much with funding problems. Most of them were paid by themselves and the projects they would bring back to academia. Universities themselves were struggling to produce scholarship that was interesting enough for their financial sustainability. At some point, you have to have an LLM to be sustainable. So there were so many other dimensions of academic work that had nothing to do with teaching, that I think when I combine the things, that we're still very old-fashioned the way we do things. And then if you actually want to change things, it will take you 20 years within the system to do. And I said, I need to try and see if there's other ways that we can